Hello and welcome back to our last episode of the week of Hospo Happy Hour, brought to you by Hospo for Life and Warner's Distillery. In today's episode, we'll be discussing how alcohol and drugs can affect your mental health with Ben Paris for the first round, followed by Executive Chef of award-winning Silvester's restaurant at the Marriott Hotel, Raphael Szurek, for last drinks. Let's get Friday underway. Up for the first round today and back for their third on the show, we have Ben Paris from People Sense by Altius Group. Welcome, Ben. How you going today, mate?
Not too bad, thanks, Liam. I'm halfway through my first drug for the morning in my coffee, so it couldn't be better.
I already had two. So tell us more about today's topic. We're talking about how alcohol and drugs can affect our mental health.
Yeah, look, I think really topical topic at the moment, given some of the pressures we're facing as a society. I was actually reflecting on my own experience in hospitality when I was writing the slides for today, and I couldn't recall a shift where I didn't actually have an alcoholic beverage. I'm not sure about you, Liam, but it was almost a right that I got to the end of the shift and I deserved one.
Yeah, that's true. And I think just about every single one of us is, or if we don't have it at work, we'll go down the road and have it somewhere else.
Mm. Yeah, there's a real social lubricant element to that, and I think that there can be a lot of positives to using that or the alcohol in a responsible way. I'm certainly not here to be the fun police for today. I'd be an absolute hypocrite to say that you shouldn't be drinking at all. But as with a lot of things in life, it's around moderation. So moderating any substance use is critically important.
Yeah.
But we know that the stress that's being placed on people through isolation and shutdowns currently is significant, and it's understandable that more and more people are struggling with their drug and alcohol use in these times. Some people might find themselves drinking or using substances more to cope with things like anxiety or stress, anger, that are associated with that changing environment. So really understandable, but certainly unhelpful in a lot of cases.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
So when we talk about drugs, a lot of images of illicit substances and dark rooms come up for people. But realistically, when we talk about a drug, we're looking at any substance that has an impact on your body.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways to categorize drugs. The most common is to split them into three categories based on how they affect your body.
Yeah.
And you probably would have heard of these before, but we've got depressants, which are the ones that slow your body down or your central nervous system down. Things like alcohol, opiates, cannabis, and benzodiazepines, a few others on the list as well.
Mm.
Then we move into stimulants, which is where the coffee comes into it. They're the ones that speed up your nervous system. Things like nicotine or tobacco, amphetamines, cocaine, and cannabis can be seen as a stimulant as well. And then we look at hallucinogens, which are the ones that affect your senses. So they change the way you see, hear, taste, smell.
Yeah.
Things like LSD, ketamine, psilocybin. Yeah, exactly. The street name. And then cannabis falls in that category as well. So you might know that cannabis can sit across the depressant, the stimulant, and the hallucinogen categories.
Definitely.
Looking at the impact on your body. So why can substances be problematic though? Why is it a problem for us that increased use is happening for a lot of people? And it really, for a lot of people, comes down to the impact it's having on your life. And it's multifold. So we look at, first of all, the health concerns. We know that there's physical and psychological health impacts of drugs and alcohol, things like impacting your mood, your energy levels, your ability to concentrate, memory, and a lot of other areas. And alcohol in particular is toxic to every organ in your body. And one of the problems that a lot of my clients run into with alcohol use is that they use it to sleep. Well, they feel that it does improve their sleep. It helps them drift off to a deep sleep, but it actually has a significant impact on the quality of your sleep and the REM sleep that is where your brain does a lot of its restorative work.
Yeah.
And we know alcohol is also associated with high blood pressure, a lot of different cancers, liver and heart disease. So physically, where there is a big concern about increased or problematic use.
Mm. And I think being, in the hospitality industry, we don't look after our bodies and our minds probably, the best way that we can. And that's so it definitely it definitely has more of an impact, I think, than what we think it does.
Sure, we're certainly not perfect people, Liam.
No.
That's for certain. We've got financial concerns. So obviously, there's the increased financial burden of buying more of your particular substance. There's a big social concern. So with higher substance use, we find people withdrawing from their healthy social network, so they can become reclusive, or at the other end, we see them engaging with undesirable social networks, like suppliers or groups that are involved in problematic behaviours.
Yeah.
And another thing that's come up, particularly with isolation and substance use, is the impact it's having on families, and particularly on our kids. So we're stuck at home with our families, and we find that kids are really good at picking up or observing problematic behaviours, particularly alcohol use. And that if they're seeing their role models drinking at a higher level, then they are more likely, it's placing them at a greater risk of harm from alcohol and drugs themselves.
Yeah.
So certainly some problems that are associated with higher substance and use at the moment, Liam.
Mm. Yeah.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon is a healthy level of alcohol to consume? Where would you put it?
I used to think like a 6-pack a day was all right, but these days I usually have a glass of wine before dinner, and I might have a glass of wine during or after dinner, and that's it. But back in the day, I used to, after work, it'd be like, how many can we get in before we go home? And that, so it was totally on another level. Now I might not, go through nearly as much as what I used to, and sometimes I might not even drink for a few weeks. Goes by and I go, oh, I haven't had a drink, and that, so it's these days very, very little compared to what I used to consume when I was in a restaurant.
Well, if we look at where the National Health Medical Research Council sets the limit, we're looking at 10 standard drinks per week. And that's no more than 4 standard drinks on any one day. And they're recommending that there's at least 2 or 3 alcohol-free days within the week as well. So that's it's a low amount when you look at it. It doesn't take much to get the 10 standard drinks in a day.
No, and I think as well, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think binge drinking is actually worse than drinking regularly. I know personally, I used to be a massive binge drinker, and when I binge, I'd have huge sessions, like huge, and that. So I guess when they brought in all the lockout laws, that was probably a good thing, because we didn't stay out till like 5 a.m. drinking, and that. But yeah, it was still, it was a big thing. But then because you're drinking more in one sitting, and that the effects would last a hell of a lot longer, and you'd feel, you feel like you've got a 3-day hangover, which was never fun. In a high pressure situation or a high pressure role in the kitchen, you just can't think clearly. You can't think straight. You're tired. You feel dehydrated, and it just really doesn't feel good.
And you've hit the nail, Liam. I think they've done studies with pilots in the past where they've looked at how well they could do their job sober, then how well they could do their job under the influence, and then how well they could do their job with a hangover. So not blowing any numbers, but still having that impact of the alcohol. And they've found some pretty worrying stats, not only in terms of how poor they are at doing their job drunk, but equally as how poor they are at doing their job hungover. It was in a simulator.
Really affect you. I know in aviation, because from my other side, and that, like, we have 8 hours bottle to throttle, and that, so we have different things there for a reason. And definitely the impacts of alcohol on the body, and that once you're dehydrated, your mind's not working. It's classic.
Mm. Well, so you've convinced me that it's an issue, Liam. That's for sure. And I'm sure that there's a few viewers sitting there today going, well, is my use too much? And if it is, what am I going to do to cut it down?
Yeah.
So I thought it was really important to look at some really practical ways that we can reduce your use.
Yeah.
One really powerful way of reducing use is to learn healthy ways to cope with uncomfortable emotions, things like anger or anxiety or even boredom, because we know that those painful emotions or uncomfortable emotions can push us to use a substance more.
Yeah.
Over time, the more that you learn better ways of coping with an uncomfortable emotion, you prove to yourself that you can do it. And it does make it easier. Sort of that practice makes progress sentiment.
Yeah, definitely.
You can limit or remove access to alcohol.
Yeah.
So I have some clients that they'll either lock up the alcohol cabinet and give the key to their partner until the weekend, or they will only buy one bottle rather than 5 when they go down to the bottler.
Yeah.
Keeping or planning things during the day to keep yourself busy and connected with others can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And particularly setting really clear targets on what your usage would look like. So I'm only going to use or have 2 drinks for this week, no more than 3 drinks on any one day at the worst. And I set with have some alcohol-free days in there as well. I'm going to be really specific and really clear with what I want to achieve.
And I think maybe if you start yourself at a lower amount and you do go over it at least, like you're not, starting at a high amount and then, increasing that out even further. So, and that's take less guilt away from feeling guilty because you might have had a few more than what you should have.
Look, and it's a really interesting point you make, Liam, because guilt is incredibly motivating. If we understand it and say, well, look, okay, I haven't achieved my goal, using that pain to then adjust your plan and having another crack at it can be really powerful.
Yeah. And we'd have a lot of guilt at the end of service when, the crew would be like, come on, let's go down the pub for a drink. You'd be like, oh, I'm going home tonight. And no, come for one. And then, you would be like, oh, maybe I should. And all of a sudden you're out for another night out and, feeling crap the next day.
Back in the cycle.
Yeah.
I get a lot of my clients find that the hardest part about cutting down their use of any substance is about managing the urges. So that desire to repeat my usual behaviors. And it's really useful to acknowledge that, first of all, urges are time limited. So reminding yourself that this will pass. And if I can surf this urge, it's likely to make the next one easier and shorter to manage.
Yeah.
And some people will find that they have to distract themselves from an urge. So whether that's watching a movie or doing a relaxation exercise, going for a run, doing a hobby, something that gets your mind off that urge and help you get through that critical period of desire to use is a great way of managing and reducing.
And those urges don't last a long time. Like speaking from experience, and I'll tell all the viewers here, like from my late teens, and that I was homeless and I was a drug addict, and I've seen firsthand that to get overcome an addiction, but also those urges which you do have, they will go away, but you need to either find something strong enough, whether it's a strong hobby which you go, oh, I like doing this, which then shifts your focus from, oh, I've got to have it, to, oh, I've totally forgotten about it. And doing that on a more regular basis, and I guess it's the same as the other, you almost call it a drug, and that's cigarettes, and that smoking's been a hard one for me for years, and I still trying to quit, and I've been saying that probably for the last 5 years, and so it's it's breaking those urges and fighting those addictions, and they do go away. But it's as to how you can really change that focus.
Look, and it can take time to find the right mix of strategies that work for you, Liam.
Yeah.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. There's some things we know work for a lot of people, but because it's such a complex combination of psychological, physical, and social factors that contribute to substance use, it can be quite an individual journey to be on.
Yeah, it definitely is.
So we're going to talk about the R word, Liam.
Yeah.
Relapse. Has this connotation of being a failure and having a really negative view on ourselves if we do relapse. I have a slightly different approach to it though, and some of your viewers may well have found that they've successfully broken a problematic habit only to find themselves experiencing a relapse with the stress of isolation and shutdowns. But relapse doesn't have to be a really negative or bad thing. We find that people are relapsing more because they're stuck at home and the support services they would usually access are harder to get to. Yes, there are online services and telephone-based services you can still access, but things like groups for like alcohol or drug related use, they are often shutting down at the moment. We also find that more time at home in the privacy of our house means that habits are easier to conceal. So we've got less pressure on us to cut down our use. And some of our usual coping strategies we just can't do. I can't go for a surf with a large group of mates at the moment because of isolation restrictions. And people will often will learn that previous coping strategies are their default. So when times of stress are high, we do tend to revert back to things that are potentially unhelpful for us. So it's really important to understand that relapse is common. It varies from each person, but a lot of people can take 1, 2, 5, 6 plus attempts to kick a problematic habit. And as long as you're acknowledging that you've relapsed, you're using your insight to review the plan that you've got and say, where did I fall down? What was it that I need to change, or what contributed to this relapse? And as long as you adjust your plan and give it another crack, I don't see relapse as being this catastrophic occurrence. And remembering, Lynn, that practice makes progress. I've never met a perfect person, yourself obviously excluded from that statement. But the more that you practice something, the better you become at it. We're not aiming to be perfect the first time around.
No, and you never will be. It's just something that just can't happen, and that you can try, but you're still always gonna. It's a work in progress that you chip away at, rather than just stopping everything right now and going, oh, I can't do this anymore, and that to actually going, well, I can do this, and then I can do this, and then I can do this, and I can do this, and then moving along with it. So yeah, that's some great advice, Ben. If anyone is struggling out there, you can get a hold of us at www.hospoforlife.com.au, and we'd be more than happy to put you in touch with someone that can talk you through anything or any habits that you're trying to break if needed. Thanks for coming on for the first round today, Ben.
My pleasure, Liam. Thanks for having me again.
Look forward to seeing you in our next segment, Your Shout. We'll see you soon. So to end Your Shout for the week, you can send in your questions for next week's show at info@hospoforlife.com.au, or send us a direct message for our professionals to answer on social media. Our first question today comes from a viewer in New South Wales. I have found my alcohol consumption has increased during lockdown. How can I cut myself down gradually?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? How can I reduce my substance use? Every person is different, and it's about finding the strategy that works best for yourself, Liam. But there are some things we know work for a lot of people. I'd start by being really honest with yourself around what your drinking actually is, and keeping a log of how many drinks you're having each day across the week. You'll get a clear and often confronting picture of what that problem looks like, and it can help you build that motivation to change. And once you're at that point, you can then set your plan of what I want to cut down by. So a clear day-to-day plan of, I want to have this many drinks on that day, and I want to have this many AFDs or alcohol-free days within that schedule as well. Yeah. It's going to be critical that you learn to surf these urges that we spoke about earlier. And there's some other little practical things you can do as well, like substituting every second drink for a glass of water, or cutting down to lower alcohol or half-size shots as a way of trying to bring that down as well. Some people find that a gradual reduction works for them. Others find that a cold turkey approach works for them as well. So again, it's finding what approach works for you. But if it doesn't work, Liam, and if you do relapse, remember, that's not a problem. Just adjust your plan, learn where it went wrong, and give it another crack.
Yeah, absolutely. And find that balance in between, and stick where it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Our next question comes from Perth. What are some healthy habits to maintain so I don't feel like drinking?
Well, we're all incredibly healthy over here in Perth, Liam. So I'm not sure what this viewer is talking about. The reality is, though, that it depends on the reason that you're drinking. If it is to cure that boredom, then find a hobby, call a friend, find a good series on Netflix to keep you entertained. If you want to get a boosted benefit from one of these activities, try and align it with something that you value. Yeah. So if I value family, then I'm going to direct my energies towards time with them. Playing games with your kids, or calling your mum, or doing something that aligns with that value. Yeah. Can be a really good way of proceeding. If it's more to cope with anxiety, and that's why you drink, then learn some anxiety management tools like meditation, mindfulness, or do some CBT with a psychologist. Yeah. It can be really useful to challenge your thinking. So learn to have awareness of what your thoughts are, and because they can be contributing to your use. So, for example, I get a lot of clients that say they justify their drinking to themselves by saying, I deserve it after a hard day. Or, look, it's not hurting anyone, why not? And they can be really difficult thoughts in terms of trying to maintain healthy habits. So being really rational with your thinking can help. And as we've said with just about every podcast we've done with you, Liam, don't forget your simple, healthy self-care. Eat well, sleep lots, move as much as you can, and connect with other people. If you're doing that, you really can't go wrong.
Yeah, no, great advice, Ben. Well, that ends your shout for another week. Thanks for joining us on the show today. It's been great, as always. And we look forward to catching you all at home next week. Thanks, Ben. So up for last drinks today, we have Raphael Szurek, the executive chef of Hatted restaurant Silvester's at the Marriott Hotel in Sydney. How are you, Raph?
Hey, yeah, very good. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So I met you a little while ago, and I have to say your food's up there with like some of the best that I've had, and that especially recently. And it was actually, we came to the Marriott. It was one of our last meals before restrictions came in. And
yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad we got to eat. How was your 2020 looking before all of this came about? And just tell our viewers a little bit about the style of your cuisine.
So yeah, we had a lot of projects for 2020. We were going to relaunch the menu in the Custom House Bar, which is the other restaurant in the hotel. We are working on that. We are working on changing the menu in Silvester again. Silvester, it's a seasonal menu, so we change every month, every 6 weeks, to be relevant with what's on the market and everything. We had a lot of projects on social media as well, cooking classes, recipes, videos, all that, and suddenly everybody got stood down. So now that was we are looking for a busy 2020, and hopefully, it's only half year, so we still have 6 months to catch up.
Yeah, no, that's right. How big of an impact did it have on you and your team when you found out you're about to accommodate quarantine guests in your hotel, and how did you have to change the food accordingly?
So it was a bit weird because at first we closed down everything, every kitchen. So, you know, pack everything, try to freeze everything.
Yeah.
We donated quite a bit of food to Aussie Harvest
Yeah.
because at that time when we closed down, we didn't know we were going to have this quarantine guest.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's clean everything. Whatever we can't keep, we'll give it to people that need it.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And then 2 days later, we are told, oh, you have 300 people checking in tomorrow. So, and then obviously it's a very different scenario and organization because it's we have 600 rooms, so now the hotel is full, and so you have all these 600 people that are not happy to be here, obviously.
Yeah.
But you still need to feed them breakfast, lunch, dinner. Try to keep in mind, you know, serving healthy food, fruits as well. All this stuff can't be like burger every day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we had basically 1 day to make the orders, get the food in, start to prep. One big challenge was to get takeaway containers because we usually don't use that. And yeah, the first week was really hard.
Yeah.
To catch up on numbers, especially because we never had big numbers and we don't have like a huge banquet facility. So it was a bit of a adjustment and, you know, trying to work smart and organized to make sure we give the best quality we can in the conditions that we had.
Yeah, no, I've seen some of your stuff on Facebook and Instagram. It's it looks a little bit nicer than some of the offerings some of the other hotels have been putting out.
Well, the thing is like we got lucky because our general manager was like, that's the opportunity to try to keep some job.
Yeah.
We are very fortunate because he was already GM. He's a very seasoned GM, and he was already there when we had the financial crisis in 2008.
Yeah.
So he was like, my goal is not to lay off anybody.
Yeah.
And so when we knew we had the choice, some of the hotel decided to close the kitchen and buy food from outside.
Yeah.
But he was like, now we're gonna do our food and serve the people and make sure. I mean, we keep job, but also we give them good quality stuff.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. How have you coped with your mental health during this time?
It's been the hardest was the unknown. So you don't know how long it's gonna take. You don't know if you're gonna be okay financially. All this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a worry, but slowly every day, you know, like we got more and more info and we got organized. So I'm lucky too because I got to spend some time at home a bit with my son, and that was like a bit of holidays. So that was nice too.
No, it is good to have that family time. I think a lot of people haven't had that for a long time, so that
for a long time, yeah.
Have it and get a good rest as well. Yeah. So what kind of methods do you put in place to keep your team positive at the hotel?
So we got a small team that's working. We've been really, you know, like being together, either me or the chef, you know, like the leaders of the kitchen, like being together with the team, making sure they get the right information. And yes, it's hard work, but you know, there's nobody around, so we put music in the kitchen that we usually don't do that, and you know, that's kind of small things, you know, buying drinks for the team.
Yeah.
Just do a coffee run outside, and then everybody, you know, that this little touch, you know, that make everybody better.
Yeah, yeah. No, I guess that's what we've got to do, and that to keep it going. I guess you're in a completely different space being the hotel, so yeah, you can do those things. What can you give our viewers as a positive for the future, going forward and coming out of COVID?
I think going forward, when Australia starts to reopen, I think it's going to be a lot of fun because everybody can't wait to go to the pub, have a beer with their mates. You know, and I'm sure people will be mindful of this restriction, like social distancing and stuff. But I'm sure a lot of people, I mean, including myself, I'm looking forward to go back to the restaurant, and because even like cooking at home is fun for a while, but you know, I miss this experience and everything. So I'm sure it will be a progressive start. You know, and not everything is going to reopen at once.
Yeah.
But I think people will support the restaurants and go back to their local coffee shops or all these kind of things. And I feel pretty positive about it.
Yeah. No, I think quite a few of us do, and definitely everyone's, you know, really stood up and looked after one another. So I think the industry is going to be quite substantially a bit stronger coming out of it as well. No, well, thanks for joining us on the show today, Raphael. Take time out of your day.
My pleasure. Very good to share a bit some feedback.
Yeah, definitely, and good luck in the coming months as well, and that with the restrictions coming off. And take care.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care too.
Thanks, Raphael.
Bye. Thanks.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. You can catch us back here at 5 p.m. on Monday for another great episode. We'll be talking about another serious mental health topic, and we'll be catching up with Tina Warner-Keogh from the UK, the co-founder of Warner's Distillery and partner of Hospo Happy Hour for Last Drinks. Big thanks to our partners Warner's Gin and Altius Group for supporting the show. Stay strong and stay united in spirit to create a positive change for a healthier industry. I'm Chef Liam Crawley. Have a great weekend.